Something weird is going on here in the Treasure Valley in Boise, Idaho. You have homes like this listed at $400,000 that are getting bid up. Not one, not two, but $10,000 to $15,000 to $30,000. Or you have houses like this who's been on the market for almost 5 months and they've had over $70,000 in price reductions, and yet it still has not sold. Should you be waiting or should you be buying? And what the heck is going on in the housing market? One thing that we need to talk about is the Meta layoffs. Here in 2025, they made an announcement they're going to lay off another 3,600 people. Out in Kuna, people were really hoping and banking on this Meta data center, how it was going to employ people, how it was going to help keep home prices high so that this crash or this bubble wouldn't pop. But the problem is Meta has started laying off people at the Kuna data center. What's going on? Well, right across the way from the Kuna Meta data center, there's another data center that's trying to work through getting review and getting approved. There's 620 acres. It is currently trying to get pushed through to have another data center. So there's going to be 2 data centers out here in Kuna, Idaho, which could bring help, but it's just in the review process. So it could be multiple years before we see that come to fruition. There is one other thing that is currently in the works, and we actually have seen it help employ a lot of people, and that's Micron's new chip plant.
For the first time in 20 years, a new $15 billion semiconductor manufacturing facility is being built in the U.S., actually right here in Boise.
Before we get into how many jobs the chip plant's going to bring, before we get into the multiplier or the construction jobs that it's planning to bring, we need to talk about Micron for a second, because Micron has been here for a while, and we got to know the pattern of Micron. So Micron has been very good at hiring a lot of people and then firing a lot of people. If you're on those layoffs and you're relying on that, then some people would have to get up and leave, meaning get up and move out of the Treasure Valley. This chip plant is going to bring around 2,000 jobs.
Many people gathering for this groundbreaking ceremony at Micron. They say it'll create more than 17,000 Idaho jobs, this facility, including 2,000 direct Micron jobs.
Out in the southeast Boise desert, the largest private investment Idaho has ever seen is coming into view.
This really will ensure U.S. leadership in semiconductor manufacturing. And I'm very proud that world's most advanced memory technologies are developed right here in Boise.
Micron CEO Sanjay Mehrotra says their $15 billion expansion will bring Boise a leading-edge memory manufacturing fab.
Now, these kind of jobs are going to be anything from technicians to engineers to software engineers. The salaries are going to range from $56,000 to $300,000. So that could be the saving grace to the Boise housing market from crashing. The problem is this isn't supposed to be complete for another 2 years. And as we're seeing home prices kind of start, like they're kind of hitting the stagnant area, we're seeing inventory increase. And if we look at Ada County's increase, what we'll see in Ada County is it's the highest it's been in the last 8 years. So we're sitting, for our inventory levels, we're sitting at over 1,400 units available for sale. And if you've been watching the Boise housing market, then you would know, wow, it does seem like you have a lot more options. For instance, like in Century Farms, you have right now, as we talk, probably 16 options of resale homes, where before in 2020, maybe even 2021, you might only have 1 or 2 options, because as soon as they got listed, they would get snagged up or they would get bid up. Let's continue to talk more about this data, because there is another interesting trend. So our pending sales it's been sitting in February, have kind of been sitting around that 1,000, 1,100 homes pending in Ada County. So we aren't seeing a huge increase in buyer demand, but we have seen a big increase in inventory. Year over year from 2024 to 2025, that's a 26% increase in just our inventory. And if this inventory level continues to climb and our pendings don't climb with it, we are going to be in trouble, and it could be a recipe for more deflationary things. Because this house that we first talked about, that was originally listed at $1 million, there's a possibility that in 2022, you could have listed it at $1 million and got it. But right now, 3 years later, they're having a problem selling it at $1 million, and that's why they've had to drop it down to $930. And I just wonder, how much further will they have to drop it before somebody says, I will take it? Because in Sky Mesa alone, there's 8 listings. Now, that doesn't seem like a lot, but you got to keep in mind, this is just a subdivision. In that subdivision, there's 8 homes listed for sale. And then right around the corner, you have Impressive East Ridge, and those are pushing at like 1 million plus homes. And those, we're having inventory climb in that subdivision, as well as Lavender Heights and Pinnacle. So we are seeing inventory grow throughout the valley, which puts pressure. Again, more inventory is good if you're in the market to buy, or if you've been waiting to buy, because the more inventory there is, the more pressure it is for the sellers sellers to start bringing their prices down. The question is, will it last, especially with what's going on with Micron? Which leads me to one thing that I want to bring up before I get into Ada County. If Micron does bring 2,000 additional jobs just hired by Micron itself, that doesn't include the construction workers or the salesmen that are in the process of building, this is just the Micron employees. We got to jump back to 2020. So in 2020, we had about migration inward of 7,500 people that moved to the Ada County area, which is part of Boise. So if that amount of people increase, if you guys have followed the market from 2020 to now, you know that when that massive migration of people came in, our home prices skyrocketed because now that created this buyer frenzy, this bidding war frenzy. And so if these 2,000 jobs, these are people that are not living here, move to this area to get employed by Micron, it could create another frenzy potentially. I do know that there are some people that move here and they decide to rent versus buy, but there is a good chunk of people that move here and buy because of the employment that brought them here. Something I want to bring up to you guys is the home price value, right? So some people got out of the market in 2022 because the market was on its way down. And what you'll see is in 2022, home prices in Ada County, the median sales price was $550,000. In 23, it dropped down to $492, and then it's kind of been on a slowly climbing. We're now in February 2025, it's sitting at $530. Now the question again stands is, will this $530 stay, or do you think it's going to come back down? And that's why I feel like this housing market is so weird, because we've seen a slight climbing in the median sales price, but then you still have properties like the ones I showed you that are sitting on the market and they're not getting buyers, or the sellers are staying stubborn. This is something that we got to watch. We got to see, is this market gonna, is the median sales price gonna stay stagnant, or are the meta layoffs and other things that are going on in the Treasure Valley, are they going to continue to bring home prices down, like the increase of inventory? One thing that I also want to bring up is, in 2023, we had around 65,000 people move out of Idaho. Now, that's not just the Treasure Valley, that's the whole statewide. So in 2023, there was a big exodus of people that left here. Some of that's from political climate, some of that's from not being able to withstand the winters here, because we are high desert. Some people don't like their skin in the high desert, right? They don't like having to wear all that lotion. So there are many factors that are causing people to leave Idaho, and that includes Boise, the Treasure Valley here, Boise and Nampa. So that could be another reason why we're seeing an increase in inventory, is because there's not that mass migration that's coming to the Treasure Valley. If you want a little bit more in depth, or you want to have a conversation on what's going on in the housing market, what we're seeing that's going on in the housing market beyond these videos, make sure you reach out. You can text housing market to 208-897-2760. Again, that's 208-897-2760, and we can jump on a call and have a little bit more discussion about what's going on in the housing market. Let's just jump into Canyon County real quick. And in Canyon County, something that is fascinating to me is, our records, we only at Boise Regional Realtors, we can only go back to 2017. And if we go back all the way to 2017, we have the highest inventory than what's recorded. A matter of fact, year over year in Canyon County for February, we had a huge 40% increase in inventory. That's a big jump, especially for a small town like the Treasure Valley. The month supply increased 33%, so now we're sitting at a 2.7 a month's worth of supply sitting on the market in Canyon County. Again, I think a part of this is the pressure of home prices in Ada County were falling. Now, it is weird because some of them are kind of getting bid back up, but more people are moving to Boise. We just had a call with somebody who bought in Nampa, but they want to move to Boise proper because they're tired of the commute. Inventory could potentially keep climbing in Canyon County, especially when our pending sales kind of flatlined, right? Technically, it dropped 1% for our pending sales, but inventory increased 40%. So that's, again, if this outward inventory in Canyon County continues on the upward climb, as well as Ada County, and our pendings and our activity of buyers kind of flatline, this will put pressure. I talked about in 2022 that I need to talk about now is people were preaching. Interest rates are going to drop. They're going to be low. They're going to be dropping. They're already dropping, whatever, right? But we haven't seen a huge drop in interest rates. Now, this tariff war might create interest rates dropping, but we haven't seen the drop that people were hoping for or people were planning on. And so when they went to buy a house on that 3-2-1 buy down, well, right now, if they bought in 22, that third year where they have to pay the full interest rate on that 7% loan is coming due. The banker is calling and knocking on the door, and if they're not ready for it, they're going to be in a world of hurt, which could increase inventory even more. They may have to put the house on the market, and if they have to put the house on the market, then they're going to need to price it aggressively to get it sold so that they're not bleeding anymore on their mortgage. The median sales price in Canyon County is $416,000. And that's a 1% increase year over year. And so we aren't seeing a giant, huge increase, especially like, again, something that we follow. Solds tell us what has happened, pendings tell us what's happening. We just have to figure out what is changing in the economy that would change the future. Well, right now, as you can see, the solds only increased 2%. If buyer demand doesn't increase substantially like the inventory is increasing, then we could potentially see that the inventory is going to drop. Inventory is going to continue to climb and prices are going to drop here in the next couple months. Some of the things that we got to keep in mind, we're looking at inventory, we're looking at interest rates, how's the interest rates playing into factor, but then also these tech jobs that are bringing jobs to the Treasure Valley, because that could change, right? We have the data center that's under review. That's still going to be a couple more years. Micron, when that facility is finished, there's going to be 2,000 jobs that are going to be engineers. They're going to be software engineers. They're going to be directors, right? You are going to have technicians and some of that, but you will have some of these higher paying jobs entering into the Treasure Valley. And so looking at all of these, we could see another spike in home prices. We could see another wave of buyers entering the market, but that's, they projected in 2027 that was going to happen. And then we also got to wait to see how does this tariff war and how does this battle between Trump and Jerome Powell, how's this going to play out? If interest rates drop, then we could see a massive boom in refinances and people getting out of those 6% interest rate loans. And if that happens, well, then everybody better buckle up because we're going to go in another giant price increase.